I can't wait.
All right, so today we're looking at Module 2, which, as I mentioned, Module 2 seems to be significantly shorter than Module 1. And that's because some of the questions will say, is this a function?
Yep.
And you'll just look at it and see if it's a function. So a lot of them don't require a lot of work, but I just want to review some vocab real quick. The first word is one that many of you forget, a relation. A relation is a set of ordered pairs. Okay? So if they give you a question like this and they say, is it A, a relation only, B, a function only, C, a relation and a function, or D, neither? Make sure you realize that any of these questions are always going to be relations. A relation is a set of ordered pairs, so it will at least be a relation. Would this be a function?
Yeah.
Yes. The x values are all distinct or different, so the input values have one output. Domain is our x, range is our y. We should remember that. The definition of a function is a relation in which each element of the domain, which is also known as your input values, is paired with exactly one element in the range, which is your output. So the shortcut is that the x values cannot repeat when you're looking at a list. The y values could all be the same. It doesn't matter. Okay, but you're talking about when you put one number in, you can only get one number out. So a couple examples. Is it a function? A, function? Yes. There's one line or arrow coming from each of those. Letter B. No. 0 is having two output values. Okay. They usually don't do the mapping diagrams, but they could. They usually just give this set of ordered pairs. Sometimes they'll say, like, what additional point can you add that would make it stay a function or something? I think you'll see that in the homework. Is C a yes or a no? Yes. X values are all distinct or different. And that would mean D is probably a no, because
That's right.
half and half. And that is no because the 0 repeats. Okay. So I guarantee you at least one of the multiple choice questions will be something like this. Always is. All right, here's are the formulas you're going to get on your Keystone formula sheet in terms of linear stuff. You also get the properties. This is what the formula sheet looks like. This is what you got on your final front. So you get an area formula, a volume formula. You get these, just to remind you length times width, in case you forget it. And then they also have all the properties, which any of you on the final, you don't know what you got wrong. But the first question was, everyone took it in here, yes. The first question was like which property is shown. And quite a few people missed it. And then someone in 12th period complained that that wasn't on the study guide. The properties were actually on your formula sheet if you looked at it. So if you were between like commutative or associative and you couldn't remember, an example is actually shown on here. So on the Keystone, usually they give you on the Keystone a step-by-step solving, and they'll say like what property was used in step 2. You can look here if you forget or you mix up associative and commutative. Okay. But in terms of Module 2, it's mostly linear. So number 17 says the line passes through the point 6, 1 and has a slope of -2. Find the equation of the line. So which of these formulas would I start with to help me solve this? Would I start with slope-intercept, point slope, or standard? Jonathan? Point slope. I have a point and I have the slope. You cannot use your graphing calculator for this one because you only have 1 point. You do need at least 2 points for the calculator. So we would plug in, this is x1 and y1. So we'll have y minus 1 equals -2 times x minus 6. All the answer choices are in slope-intercept form, so what would I do next? Evelyn?
Make it into a slope-intercept form.
How would I do that? Yes? What would my first step be to do that, Shan? Distribute the -2 first. Good. We'll have -2x. -2 times a -6 gets me a +12. And then I would add 1 to both sides to get -12x plus 13. -2x plus 13, which was answer choice C. Okay. So you'll see point slope quite a bit on here. Now, the next one, also linear. They give you a table. They love to give tables because one of those objectives is that you can convert between an equation, a graph, and a table, and that you can kind of mix between all of them. And that's one of the skills they test you on. So, strong possibility you'll see something like this. Okay, the long way to do it, calculate your slope, like a y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Pick a point, use point slope. But they want it in slope-intercept form, so then you're rearranging a bunch of stuff. The shortcut is to use the graphing calculator. Okay, so we'll go to our stat button. We'll go to our edit. And we're going to input, this will be my L1, and this will be my L2. You're going to see a question in the homework that's an open-ended question that also has a table like this. You'll probably want to use the graphing calculator. We did one like it earlier. Do you remember like the airplane question? We had to figure out like how many airplanes Ben had to sell to make a profit. I think it was a Collins writing assignment I gave. The numbers are different.
Yeah, I love Dr. Collins just as much as I love Algebra 1. What a legend.
Alright, so we'll put in our x values and our y values. Oops. And then what do I press after I input my values? I want to get my line. Sheehan? Good. Stat, arrow over to calculate. And you're always on the Keystone going to choose linear. Everything's linear. So option 4. Hit enter. Ta-da! Plug those numbers back in. Bless you. Y equals 5x minus 10. Okay. Now, if you were to do that and get something weird with decimals that repeated, go back and check you might have put a number in wrong, because usually they're going to come out to be, they could be decimals, but like 1.25, something easy on the Keystone usually. Okay. All right, I threw an open-ended question on here because those are worth a significant amount of points on the Keystone. I want to make sure we're practicing. And this is a Module 2-1. So there was a layer of snow on Joe's driveway when it began to snow again. As the snow fell, Joe measured the depth in centimeters of snow on his driveway. After 10 minutes, it was 2.0 centimeters. After 30 minutes, the snow was 3.6 centimeters deep. The snow continued to fall at a same constant rate, and Joe graphed a line to represent the snowfall, as I'm sure all of you do in the winter.
I was going to say, you actually.
Graphing a line for snowfall, yes.
Real life situations in it.
All right, what should be the slope of Joe's line? So how can we find the slope of the line that Joe graphed? Maybe he graphed it in the snow, we don't know, but we need to find the slope.
Whatever he did, he's legendary.
What do you think? What do you think? Shin? Good. Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. Now you do have to have 2 points to use that, right? Now the question is it going to be 10, 2 or 2, 10? You have to think about what's your independent and what's your dependent. So is time going to be X or is time going to be Y? Time is going to be X. Okay, the amount of snow that's on the driveway will depend on how long the snow was falling. So time will be our X. So that's going to be 10, 2 and 30, 3.6. We plug into our equation, we simplify. Now, just a little comment. If you look to the extension part of this question, they do ask you to find the equation of the line. So we also could use the graphing calculator, couldn't we? Because it'll get me the equation, and the equation's going to have the slope in it. Okay, so if you glance ahead, you might be able to shortcut that process. But if you do the formula, it doesn't take too long. I wrote the wrong number. Now the Keystone does let you write it in an equivalent form, so even though they might have a different answer on their answer key for the graders, they say or equivalent. So if you left it like this, they actually would accept it, even though Mrs. Bennett would cringe at a decimal inside of a fraction.
Oh, she would
Okay, but you
cringe.
could. Okay, but you can also divide these and you'll get 0.08. Okay, but either of these answers and actually any equivalent form would also work. So if you had like 16 over 200, that would work. Part B, explain what the slope means in terms of the situation. So what does it mean in terms of Joe's driveway, the snow, the time, etc.? What does the 0.08 stand for? Remember, slope is the change in y over the change in x. So the y was the change in the snowfall over the change in the time. So this would really be, does no one really know, or they're just not one of it? Makes me nervous. Bailey?
0.08 centimeters of snow every minute.
Yes, 0.08 centimeters of snow every minute. And I always like to elaborate. Snow is falling at a rate of 0.08 centimeters. And you could say every minute or per minute.
Honestly, I'm glad you're making use of that math degree here.
That's right, Carson. Now, if you wrote the slope this way, you would say that the snow fell, there's 1.6 centimeters falling every 20 minutes. Okay, and if you did it a different way, you could describe it a different way. And then part C asks us for the equation. Again, they don't tell you what form, so technically you could put it in slope-intercept or point-slope form and leave it that way. But again, we have two options. We could either use point-slope, or you could use the graphing calculator. Which would we like to do? Graphing calculator. Very nice. Stat, edit. Since I have a bunch of stuff in here, I'm going to have to clear it. Don't read my mind. Do not delete it.
Yeah, give it the math degree now.
I forget what my points are now.
2, 4, is
10 and 2.
10 and 2.
Stat, calculate, option 4, and enter, and we get our answer, which is y equals 0.08x plus 1.2.
Option 1's great.
Now, they didn't ask you this, but just as an extension question while we're here, if they said, what does the y-intercept represent in terms of the problem? What would you tell me that the 1.2 stands for? Jonathan?
There's already 1.2 centimeters on the ground.
Good. There was already 1.2 centimeters of snow before the snow started falling. Because it had said he had already had snow on his driveway. Apparently he doesn't keep up with the shoveling. All right. Part D, how many minutes should it take for the depth of snow to reach 8 centimeters? So am I plugging 8 centimeters in for X, or am I plugging it in for Y? Y. Because Y is the height of the snow. And then you just solve, subtract, and divide. And you should get 85 minutes. You do want to put units on your Keystone constructor response questions. Again, the constructor response are worth a big portion of the grade. So you want to make sure that you try. Even if you don't know how to do the whole problem, do as much as you can, and don't leave any of the boxes blank. So just do something. Anything. All right. Last thing we see on here is our line of best fit. So the line of best fit, we always calculated using the graphing calculator. We would put in our scatter plot and then run the values. They're usually going to give you a graph. Okay, I would not waste my time putting all these points in my calculator because, again, they're most likely drawing a trend line, even though they say line of best fit. So remember, the line of best fit goes through the center of the data. Well, let's use my line tool maybe. So you would want to take and sketch one in, like roughly. So it's going through, you have about the same number of points above and below the line, which that one's, I guess I have more below the line. But. And then essentially you're just using process elimination. So I usually use my y-intercept first. So the y-intercept looks like it's about 3 or 4. Notice the units, it is just regular miles. So the y-intercept is definitely not 50. So I would get rid of answer choices C and D. Then I'm just going to go and test the slope. So if I were to go up 11, so that would be up 5, up 10, so roughly 11, and then over 50. So 20, 40, 50 would be like somewhere around here. That looks pretty close to the line I drew. Okay, so I went up from here and over 50. So that one looks like it's it, but let's double check and make sure the other one isn't. So if I were to start at this point and go up 50, I would be going to 53 and over 11. Well, my line is definitely not up there. So this one is out. Answer choice A. Okay, the next one is open-ended, I think. This time they drew in the line of best fit for us. And this is representing the cost of miniature golf in relation to the number of players. So we're asked to find the equation of the line of best fit in slope-intercept form. Okay, now you could do a lot of work for this. You could pick 2 points on the line, you could find the slope, do point slope. But I think you could just look at the graph. What's the y-intercept? Where's across the y-axis? Lena. 4. That's my b value. Slope. Now remember, the slope, you're looking for the slope of the line, not the scatter plot. So you're looking for the actual line, which does go through the corners of these points. Make sure you don't think it's up to over 1, which actually that will work, but it really goes up to 4 and over 2, which would then reduce to b2. But not always will that happen. So y equals 2x plus 4. Now, if you were to take these points and put them in your stat edit, it would also get you the same equation, but this was a little bit faster. Based on the line of best fit, find the cost of a miniature golf game with 5 players. So am I plugging 5 in for x or for y? Garrett? X. And 2 times 5 is 10, plus 4 is 14. Part C says, use line of best fit to estimate the cost of a miniature golf game with 9 players. Usually they would not do the same question twice. They would probably say, for how many players would it cost something? And you plug it in for y. But this one, you're literally just plugging in 9 for x. So we should get $22. Okay. The last 2 are making predictions. The really last one is not making predictions. It's more analyzing the graph. But this one I think was a bell ringer earlier in the year. It talks about the number of scratches on a car in terms of how many years you've owned the car. And it says, based on the line of best fit, which is most likely the number of scratches that can be found on a car that is 30 years old. So you go to the age of the car, we go to 30. Okay, we're going to want to go up to the line of best fit, which if you go up right now, the line of best fit doesn't extend. So you would want to take your pencil or pen and just extend that line a little bit. And then go up from 30 to the line, and then go over to the y-axis to see where it crosses. And it looks to be about 87. So answer choice C. So if you guys can answer the last one while I pass out your packets for homework. We're only doing half of this one tonight, so I'll put the numbers are on both boards for you to circle or jot down. This last one's a little bit tricky. We won't go over it. so for this one, it said, in how many of the last 10 days did Joan deliver more than twice as many large loads of firewood as small loads? So notice that the x-axis is your small, and the y is your large. So for how many days was more than twice as many large loads as small loads? No. Alright, so for this one, I would actually list all of my ordered pairs out, especially since we're kind of taking notes here. So 1, 4, 1, 6, 2, 6, 3, 5, 3, 6, and 3, 8. 4, 4, 5, 2, 6, 3, and 7, 5. Okay, so on how many of the last 10 days did she deliver more than twice as many large loads as small loads? Okay, so small loads, if I double them, 1 times 2 is 2. Is 4 bigger than 2? Yes. So that would be one of the days that she delivered more than twice the amount. 1 times 2 is 2. Is 6 bigger than 2? Yes, that one counts. 2 times 2 is 4. Is 4 bigger than 6? No. That one will count. So she delivered more than twice the amount of large loads. Now 3 times 2 is 6, which is not bigger than 5, so that one does not count. 3 times 2 is 6, which is equal to, but it wants more than twice, so that one also would not count. 3 times 2 is 6, 8 is bigger than 6, so that one does count. None of the other ones will. 4 times 2 is 8, 5 times 2 is 10, 6 times 2 is 12, and 14. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Answer choice C. Okay, so this one was a little bit more about analyzing a graph instead of line of fit, even though it was a scatter plot. Okay, so again, jot down somewhere the homework, which is 1 through 16 and 27 through 29. Again, tomorrow you will be assigned, I think, the rest of them. There might be one open-ended I cut out. I have to look at that next period. But if you want to get a jump start on that tonight, you can.